Hello, everyone, and welcome to Starship Tempest. This is an episode of Tempest Talks, and today what we're doing is answering fan questions. Now, we have collected a handful of questions from some wonderful fans of ours. Some are our Patreon supporters, which we are eternally grateful for your support. And I wanted to go ahead and give some shout outs to the people who have submitted these questions to us. So thank you to Jessica Lyon, Jackie Windle, Janelle Davis, Laura Justine, Cole Taylor, Katie Utke, and Daniel Ferraro. We appreciate these questions. They're great. Okay, fellas, we ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let's see.
Make it go.
Make it go.
Make it go. It's a toddler Picard.
All right, so the first question, the most popular question, is will Bach return?
We're trying. Brian has not acquiesced yet.
We're trying so hard.
I mean, he's a busy man. He's got stuff to do, guys.
He's a busy man.
Got a whole mining operation to run.
Yeah,
He
He's
runs
got so
mining.
many Ivexians to murder.
No, you spared the Ivexians, and Bach, the gracious, peace-loving Klingon that he is, granted you the time you needed to transplant them. He might not. Depends on what happens in the universe. Like, I'm not in charge of it.
All right. Well, you
wait.
are too.
I'm not in charge of Bach.
I love how Tara bought that answer for like 0.68 cents.
For an android, that is nearly an eternity. This is a good question. Is it hard for us to come up with actions in the moment? What do you think, Matt?
Like what we do.
Yeah.
Not
Like, what is it you
Like-
say you do?
like
Here.
when something happens and we decide what we want to do.
Yeah.
I don't think so. It's not hard for us to come up with them. I think the issue is that we come up with too many, and then we have to figure out which one we want to do.
Right.
And we talk about it for about 45 minutes before we do anything.
Yeah,
fair.
so
Brian
That's-
tries
that's-
to kill us through Zoom.
that's interesting. I think Matt's onto something there. I think earlier on in the show, especially, we were very afraid to take action. So we might not have been afraid to make a decision about what action we want to take, but actually taking that step and enacting that, we were so hesitant for so
Yeah.
long. I think we've gotten better at it. I think personally, for me as a role player, it is definitely situational, because I almost always have something that Ryan, want to do, but I often have a difficult time justifying it in the voice of Maddox and trying to find the words before you start speaking so you don't sound like a complete idiot. Like, I'm going to sound like an idiot, but I want to make it sound a little bit less idiotic than coming out of Maddox's voice than my own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
agree
mean,
with that.
I mean, there is an aspect of, like, if you're writing a script or a novel or whatever, there's always moments where, you as the writer, you pause and you're
you think
thinking
about
about,
it.
like, you think about, okay, what do I want to happen next? What
Yeah.
would this person do in this situation? So there's definitely that, but there's also the kind of increased pressure of it feels like a more real time thing. So yeah, I mean, I think there are moments. I mean, there are moments definitely where I go like, okay, well, what does the NPC want to do now, or
Right.
what do they want to say? Like, and that's the joy of this not being a true, pure, actual play, in that we can kind of trim those moments of fat out.
Yeah.
I also think it ties to the fact that a lot of us are fairly amateur and not experienced when it comes to role-playing games, right? We all have the writer and theater background, so I think there's sometimes, especially in the early seasons, where it's like we are trying to make our decision work for the story as opposed to just be the characters that are in there. So it's
Yeah.
like we can do improv comedy, but like doing improv as a role-playing thing is a different tweak. And since we are all so new to it and thinking like, okay, we want to make sure the podcast at the end has a fun, engaging story, as opposed to thinking like, this is what Holden or Maddox is just feeling in that moment, what would they do? I think we've gotten better with that over time, as Ryan has said, and like shifting out of that zone of worrying about where the story's going and just letting our characters be characters is a
Yeah.
big one.
I'd agree with
Yeah,
that. Another great question is how many contingency plans does Brian create for when we ruin his main plan?
I mean, I don't know if that's the way to. So, as we talked about, I had never GM'd, I'd never designed a campaign, I'd never written role-playing game modules or stories beforehand. So when we started, I definitely was like, I've got to figure out a technique for how to do this, to just create this material. And then whether or not whatever that technique that I come up with will actually work in terms of then becoming a session that other people come into and then collaboratively become something, I don't know. So I mean, I've sort of settled on this technique where like I'll try to do like an outline essentially, or like a framework where, in TV they talk about like A plots and B plots and C plots to an episode, right? So you'll have two different stories that aren't necessarily connected, and you might cut back and forth between one of them. In the TNG episode of Lower Decks, right? You have the A plot of the Lower Deck characters, but then you've also got this B plot of like whatever this mission is, and they
Right.
come together. So I sort of like try to do that where I have like different, not plots specifically, but like threads, different elements, and then it becomes more like a deck of cards that I have. So
Yeah.
I've got the central premise of whatever the episode is, but then I've also got like these other things in my back pocket that I can pull out that are to various degrees related to whatever the premise is. So like if I really just need pirates to show up and mess everything up, I've got a pirate card like prepared.
Right.
So really, your answer is I have no plans.
If too much plan.
Yes,
Bunch of pieces of plans.
it's
Yeah.
somewhere in between having too much plans and not being prepared enough. It is somehow both things at the same time.
You just
Yeah.
describe the life of every GM.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
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 A Travis question. Will
no.
Travis do more Kobayashi Maru episodes?
I will.
Yay!
Yay.
Yeah. I just mentioned on our Discord for Patreon supporters that Brian will be sending an email out to them. For those that don't know, if you go back and if you're listening, we did the Kobayashi Maru one-shots that I ran a while back to sort of fill a gap between seasons 1 and 2. I was not able to get ahead this time, so instead what we're planning on doing is to record them over the next month or two and then sort of release them in between missions to help sort of just bring them out so that we're not just holding on to them. But I do have a plot in mind. It's a little wild. We'll see how it goes. But that is the plan. So the crew will likely be a part of it, as well as the GM, to make sure I have at least a couple of the episodes. And then depending on how many Patreon supporters want to join, we're just going to throw that out there for a blanket of everyone who supports us through Patreon. And if they want to do it and we can find time in the schedule, we'll jump on and do that. So yes, there are more coming. I have a plan in place. And hopefully it's as good as the last one.
Can you just follow that up with an explanation of how it went with the Patreon players that participated last time? Because
It was an absolute blast.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they came up with characters ahead of time, fleshed them all out. We had some neat ideas. We had some really interesting takes on Starfleet cadets that I thought made really awesome, would have been really cool cadets to see on Star Trek. So we'll see. The scenario that I have in mind this time is a little funky. It doesn't quite allow for that sort of creativity. Instead, it's sort of twisting something a little different. But yeah, we'll see. It should be a ride.
Nice.
So-
That's awesome. Look forward to it.
And separately, we had a Kobayashi Maru question about whether Dr. Teal will do it. And yes, Dr. Teal will do it. I was Eel last time because I thought that would be more fun. And because I was nervous.
So explain that, Tara. Explain that part of your personality.
All right. So my therapist says I dissociate.
I didn't mean for you to go there.
Yeah, but that delivery was funny.
It was.
So when I am nervous, and my whole life I've done this, when I am nervous, I am way more comfortable in a different voice or dialect or accent. And it has been, a good way for me to ease into Tempest as well. I was really nervous at first as Dr. Teal. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know if I would have the jargon right. I was, just in my head about it too much. And then I stumbled into doing Eel, and then I was like, oh, I'd rather be that guy. That was more fun for me. And Brian's like, no, but you're the doctor. And I was like, yeah. Okay, can I be both though? Like, yes.
And
it's very interesting take, because what you're basically doing is the audio drama equivalent of putting on a costume. Because actors will frequently say, once you put on the costume, it's so much easier to be that character. And that's exactly what you're doing, and that's obviously you do it extraordinarily well.
Hey, thanks.
That's why you voice 90% of the NPCs on the ship.
Brian's like, give this person a voice, and I'm like, oh, okay. A Southern Belle? Is that what we decided? Oh, all right. Let's see. If we could cross over our show with any other show or character, what would we pick?
Any other show, like Star Trek show, or any other show, period?
Any other, it says any other show. Yep.
Oh, wow.
Oy.
It's a big
Matt,
thing.
why don't you go? Because
No.
No,
don't.
No.
Because Matt, why don't you go? Because I need time to think.
Yeah, we all need time.
I mean, I've been watching Bob's Burgers a lot lately. So
Bob's Replicators.
yeah.
Oh my god.
I mean, I think that'd be fun. Like to, I'd like to see Louise in Starfleet. I think she'd be a pretty badass Starfleet officer who would like play fast and loose with the Prime Directive.
Yeah, maybe this should be a crossover with the most recent show we've watched, because the first thing that came to mind for me was that the boys and I, my kiddos and I, just rewatched all of Steven Universe, and like how fun that would be with a Star Trek twist, because it has to do with space and stuff, right? Like the diamonds run into the Enterprise, and there could be a whole thing.
Well, if we go with the...
We could do a great crossover, because I just watched History of the World Part 2, so we could do a crossover with Jews in space.
What were you gonna say, Matt?
I say if we go by the last show you just watched, we could do a crossover with Bluey.
Yes.
Because that's all my daughter wants to watch.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of, one of
wonderful.
our artists, our artist sponsors for one of the episodes of Ariana Art did a Bluey Star Trek crossover with sticker. They're incredible.
They're really good.
They're incredible. Yeah,
I need
you
to
have
see them now.
Yes, you do. They're wonderful.
So I'll take it from the Star Trek point of view. If our show had to interact or had to cross over with any other Star Trek show, it's too easy to say TNG or original series, because we're right in the middle of them, so that's too easy.
Yeah.
But I would. This isn't maybe answering the question in the way that the questioner wanted, but I would love a Mirror Universe Tempest episode to take place.
Oh wow!
So
hey, Brian, put that in your notes.
Oh, that would be cool as hell.
Put that in your notes and stick it.
I don't take notes.
Oh.
But yeah, seeing and like
put it in
where. And we could then visit, maybe because DS9 explored the Mirror Universe more than any other Star Trek. So we could go into one of the DS9 episodes, or kind of like how DS9 went into the Trial of Tribulations, they went into a specific episode. I would like to have the Tempest crew visit a specific Mirror episode that has already been explored.
Oh, interesting.
And that would be fun. That would be a lot of fun.
Although if we're going to be on a Star Trek show, let's be honest, we are lower decks caliber. Like with all our animals and all
we'd
our
get along
nonsense.
very well with the Cerritos.
Oh
for sure.
yeah, we for sure.
I was gonna say I would not hate the crew of the Tempest and Planet Express ship meeting up and having fun. for Futurama. Yeah.
Oh.
How about the Tempest gets roped into some adventure with the Thermians? From
Yeah,
Quest?
also good.
Oh, God.
Oh, that's
Debs,
good.
On.
Yeah.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
good.
On.
You got it, sugar.
You
Another
got
question.
it, sugar.
Amazing. The next question is, how much does Ryan and Travis edit out? How much is left on the cutting room floor from each episode mission?
4%. So I'll start, since it's a
Yeah, go
1-2
ahead.
process, right?
Well,
Yeah.
explain the whole thing. That's a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when we record it, we do like we just record everything raw. All of us take our own recordings and then we upload them to a shared drive. I pull everything down and do what I refer to as a cleaning process. It's a basic like removing the background noise, cutting out coughs and excessive ums when we're sort of struggling to find the words of stuff. Usually our raw recordings are somewhere between 4.5 to 5 hours, but that's including us not starting the episode for 15-20 minutes at the beginning, us chatting after
Bathroom
we're done
breaks.
for 10-15 minutes. Yeah, multiple bathroom breaks. Normally we take a break somewhere in the middle to do stuff. So by the time it gets to Ryan, it's usually down 3 to 3.5 hours. Usually around 3.5 hours is probably a good guesstimate, give or take. In terms of the amount of stuff that gets cut, like if you're just saying we're doing a scene, we play out that scene, how much of that scene gets like trimmed down? Not a ton. Usually the majority of stuff that kind of gets cut from the episode is usually when more than one person says the same thing. So like if we're all trying to figure out what's going on, or we're trying to think of something like to do and multiple people have the suggestion, it's like, okay, rather than us talking about it and then like talking about it more than once, it's like, okay, well, we only need to talk about it once. But a lot of that stuff, whenever someone has a suggestion and someone comes up with something different, we try to leave that stuff in there because usually that's sort of a thread that connects everything. So I do all that cleaning stuff, and I think that's where a majority of the stuff gets cut. But it's mostly just, it's coughs. It's if we weren't sure of a rule and so we had to go look it up. It's like there's no reason why the listener should have to wait for 2-3 minutes of time while we're looking at what a talent is for one of us. So it's a lot of stuff like that. So like a portion gets cut, but not a lot of actual dialogue, scene stuff. Whenever we dive into true role play, those scenes almost never get cleaned or edited in any major way, simply because we're all in the flow of that role play at the time. So we kind of just let those breathe as what they are. And then once I'm done with the cleaning, the sound is a little better. Some of that sort of overlapping, first of all the overlapping talking kind of gets shifted a bunch, so there's not nearly as much of that. And then trimmed down, and then it goes to Ryan for the additional stuff.
And I will say, once Travis does a really great job in the cleaning process, and my God, I can't tell you how many thousands of hours he spends on it. It's a lot. So it's we are certainly not your average record and go actual play podcast. So we do edit, and as Travis just pointed out, the stuff that is on the cutting room floor is largely not anything anybody's interested in listening to, and there are times that because we take sort of a unique approach with how we construct the post-production process for our actual play podcast, there are times when a scene may be omitted because it just sort of like what Travis was talking about, somebody will suggest a solution, and then we, the cast members, as you all know, are so thoroughly indecisive at times that we'll go on for 25 minutes before we decide that the thing that the first person said we should do initially is actually what we're doing, and that all that will get cut. But there are rare instances, and one in particular, where we'll do a full role play scene, but the way the episode is constructed, Brian built one particular episode where we're starting in the middle of an action sequence. So, and that action sequence didn't actually have any bearing on the plot of the episode. It was just sort of, what's the term called, Brian, when you come into the middle of the action?
In media res.
In media res is the industry term. And so we were doing an in media res scene where we're sort of entering the episode in action as role playing, and we did that. We role played the whole scene, and we had a beginning, middle, and end of that scene that we role played out. but it just didn't work because we take too long to do our stuff. So it was like 45 minutes of us role playing a scene that actually has no bearing on the actual mission. And that is what we then decided to, well, let's take this, the events, the actions, the decisions that we as characters in role playing mode made, and compress it, script it, and record it as the cold open for the mission. And it worked beautifully. It was what was the mission, Brian? The name, it's escaping me.
That was
Eureka.
Showdown at Eureka Draw.
Yeah. So if you go back and listen to Showdown at Eureka Draw, the cold open for the mission is my favorite cold open that we did, where we're all on the bridge playing our characters, and it's fully sound designed. And that scene was completely taken beat for beat, line by line from our role play. And the Patreons have the option to listen to the original roleplay scene. So that is one example where we cut stuff, but we also sort of included it in a new and creative way. But largely, Travis is right. Everything that's left on the cutting room floor is just stuff that nobody wants to listen to, where we're arguing and listening or looking up rules. So
yeah, it definitely speaks to me of how impressive it is that the folks who do the full-on actual plays are just so much better. I mean, we're all pretty novice.
Better
about,
they are.
Yeah, we're all pretty novice about role playing, which I think goes to a lot of it. I think it has gotten less as time has passed. There's less of that sort of trimming and cutting out those back and forths. But yeah, the people who have played games for a long time and have performance backgrounds, like to just record full on and say just the raw, everything that gets said is going to just be a part of this thing. Like, it's just an impressive talent that they have that, like, we aren't there yet. So we just enjoy the fact that we can say, okay, if we have to go look up a rule, we can just cut that out, and the listeners don't have to wait while we're doing that. So
Totally.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, the first time I saw like Critical Role in any significant capacity was a live show they did at Gen Con. And they basically did a 3-hour session, and just had a really like compelling, entertaining piece of performance for 3 hours unbroken. That didn't have any of the editing. It was literally a live performance. Didn't have any of the post-production that we do, and it's a very impressive thing to be able to do.
Totally. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys 2 questions to think on while I answer a question that was for me. Okay. And of course, Ryan stepped away for a second. Okay, so the 2 questions you have to think on. What Hogwarts house would your character be in? And if your main character could meet any other Star Trek character in the Star Trek universe, who would you want it to be from anywhere in the Star Trek universe? So Ryan, think on those. What Hogwarts house would your character be in? And if your Tempest character could meet any Star Trek character, who would it be? And while they think on that, the question for me was, what's it like being the only woman on the show? And I will say that my crew here on the Tempest, I have been friends with for almost 20 years. And I have never really thought of myself as the only girl in the room, except that I was for a really long time. We all of our interests aligned, and Ryan and I have been together for almost 20 years, and that's ridiculous. And when we would go to conventions and things like that, he and I were both interested, and then some of our closest friends would go. And so it's always been me and the guys like that. I didn't think anything of it. And so when we started this show, it was he had to, I took a little convincing because I was pregnant and then had a newborn, but it was me and my guys. So I've never thought of it as a weird thing to be the only woman, or to be a female representation in a Star Trek podcast or anything like that. This is my family, like that's always been my my take on it. However, I do think it's important to have a strong female voice, especially in the Star Trek community, and I'm glad to be doing that. And
or 5 of them,
or several, yeah. However many voices, and it feels, I don't know, feels like home. Doesn't feel strange or anything. Just, yeah. All right, so There, I answered that, and I was mushy enough. So.
That was cute.
It's time for
Yeah,
man
well-
stuff now.
Yeah, I gotta go now.
My Hogwarts house would definitely be. I'm a Hufflepuff for sure.
All the meatheads are Hufflepuffs.
Ruffle yarn.
Ruffle yarn.
Ruffle yarn.
The lost Hogwarts house. All right. So let's start with on my screen. Ryan is up first. So Ryan, what house would Captain Maddox be in?
Gosh, I hate to say because, like, my house, Tara is the Harry Potter guru in our home. I enjoy Harry Potter. I like the books very much. The movies I'm less of a fan of, but it's not my universe. It's not something that I play in or I dream about or think about very often. That being said, because I'm married to Tara, I have taken many a house test, and every single time it has always come up Gryffindor.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to come up Gryffindor because
mean-
everybody wants it to be Gryffindor for themselves, I feel like, because it's who Harry Potter, obviously, that's his house. But I also feel like Maddox is, I try at least for it to be sort of a reflection of me, but better than myself. So I guess I would have to say Gryffindor.
There is no universe in which Maddox is not Gryffindor.
100%.
Okay,
Maddox is
good.
the
I'm
most
glad somebody else
Gryffindor
said
of
that.
all
Yeah,
Gryffindor.
it's, yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's correct.
Okay,
is the
I'm
correct
glad
answer.
other people feel that way. Okay.
All right,
So
next on my
Gryffindor.
Gryffindor. Next
And
on
what,
my.
hold on. Were we going to do the character thing at the same time?
Oh, sure, yeah, okay. And which character would
Hey.
would Captain Maddox want to meet?
God bless Brian, because I don't have to answer this question. All I have to say is stay tuned.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah.
Even given how Maddox reacted.
Good tease.
Well, I don't want to. I
Yes.
don't want to. I don't want to
Doesn't wanna give it
expound
away.
upon it.
All right,
Because,
all right.
yeah. Mhm.
All right, Brian is next.
I mean,
It's
As
your
well,
own
yeah.
personal house, probably as the GM.
personal house is obvious. It's Ravenclaw, like
Yeah.
straight. I do feel like, is this something I made up or is this something that exists, Eric? Because I'm not much of a Harry Potter person either. And you
No,
are the
Ruffle Yarn
expert.
does not exist. Brian.
Ruffle
No,
Yarn is not a
you
real
made
house.
that up.
No,
You
but
made
no,
that up
but
when
like
we were going
you know
to
how
the Joanne
astrologists have
Fabric.
the like your sign, but then you're also your moon rising or whatever, like your minor.
Oh
Complimentary.
yeah,
I feel like there's a similar thing with
yeah,
Harry Potter houses, Hogwarts
yeah. You
houses.
can have a secondary. Yeah,
Yeah, so my primary is Ravenclaw, straight, no question. But then I
Yeah.
feel like my minor is Slytherin.
yeah. I'll give you that.
So
Because you're a bad guy.
Yeah.
no, just because I just don't care how
Like
you get
people.
it done. I don't like people, and I'm also over caring about doing it the right way at this point in my life.
Nah.
Just
Yeah.
do the right thing, but get it done.
Yeah, just step on that guy if you have to. It's fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like I'm okay if you step on the bad guys at this point in my life,
Yeah.
No, but that's me. That's not a character, and obviously I
Yeah.
don't have a player, primary player character. So like, you could just pick one of the NPCs, one of the
Yeah.
dozens of NPCs we've had at this point.
Sure.
And so, if we're doing that, then I would say that Bach is absolutely a Hufflepuff.
I love that for him.
Which is a joke, but it's also real because
Yeah.
Hufflepuffs are like, they don't need the glory. They don't need. They just buckle down and get the work done, and that is
It's true.
absolutely what Bach is all about.
Yeah, 100%.
perfect.
I love that he's a fan favorite, even though he was a one-off character
I know.
in the first
Best.
season, and Brian will never bring him back.
I
Uh,
have
go-
zero idea
You
of
have a
what he
kind.
would do. If I have a good idea, he'll come back, but I don't. He was
We'll
just,
make it work.
it was just a one-off.
You don't have good ideas, guys.
All right,
Yeah.
next on my screen is Smythe. I mean Matt.
All right. I have been informed.
What's
by
the
my wife.
oldest Hufflepuff house? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, where do they put the old people? No. So I asked my wife Hannah what house is where all the nerds go to,
hmm
and she said, "Really smart, it's Ravenclaw.
Yeah.
But if they don't know where to put you, it's Hufflepuff." So Smite's in one of those.
I would say Smythe is a Ravenclaw.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't know much Harry Potter. I read the books and I watched the movies, and that's about all.
That's all
So
right. Yeah.
I'm not
Who would
deep
Smythe
into
want to
it.
meet?
but-
And
Um,
Yeah.
I can't think of anyone off the top of my head that Smythe would want to meet. It's honestly probably it's one of those like random scientists that were around for like one episode. You know, like the one
Yeah.
that Riker did not kill that man, but he banged the guy's wife. Like that guy. Smythe and
kill
him are
that
probably
man. Yeah.
get along really well with.
Yeah.
You
What about
know?
Dr. Sung?
I feel like actually Smythe would really love to meet Dr. Galen.
Yes, I
archaeologist.
think Galen is probably that's the one that was floating around my head because he wasn't
one
on the
season too
Tempest.
late.
Yeah, he wasn't on the Tempest when they
Ah.
met Dr. Galen.
That's right.
Bummer.
So that would have been a good one for Smythe.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right.
So
Travis?
Oh, I mean, we all know Holden is a Slytherin.
I mean, 100%.
Obviously.
That was easy.
Like that's his first and secondary. So-
Yeah.
Holden
True,
actually has a
true.
hyphenated last name. It's Holden Malfoy. His Nicholas Holden Malfoy.
Nicholas Holden Malfoy.
He's the scion of Starfleet intelligence.
And then the person that he would want to meet of all of the people, I would probably
Yeah.
say Scotty. You know, the miracle worker.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, yeah, good choice,
It,
man.
it seems like something Holden would get kicked out of, and personalities I think would mesh.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
So-
he's still around at this point in history
I'd
too.
agree
You
with
just have
that.
to get him out of that Dyson sphere.
Yeah, you just head to the Dyson Sphere first, Tempest. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, so
Um,
here's a question for you then, Travis. If Relics, the episode Relics happens, but it's Holden instead of LaForge, how does the episode go down? Like, because LaForge gets like pretty pissy about Scotty looking over his shoulder all day long. How does Holden react in LaForge's position? Do you think?
He wouldn't be as snotty about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's less like protective of the thing and doesn't really care that much. Like as long as stuff's getting done. Again, if he's part of the reason LaForge was being snotty is because he kept suggesting stuff that no longer worked.
Right.
So I think Holden would just be like would probably get annoyed at that part of it, but otherwise would just be like, well, let's do this other thing. In terms of the episode, how it ends, I'm trying to think of the mechanics of what happens in the full-on episode.
I mean, the ending is actually like pretty fucked up when you look at it, and we've joked about this before. But the episode ends. Geordi and Scotty are walking down the hallway, and like, based on how they're talking, Geordi has not communicated the fact that he is taking Scotty to the shuttle bay to to see him off. So it's something like to the effect of like, yeah, let's go to the bar and get a drink or something. It's like, oh, well, actually, there's something I wanted to show you. And then they walk into the shuttle bay and it's like,
Actually,
there's a
bye.
shuttle. Get the fuck off.
Get off my ship.
Goodbye. Oh, no.
And it's played as heartwarming. It's like, here you go. Here's a shuttle, so you can go off and explore. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeesh.
Here's an old man with no family and no connections, alone in a shuttlecraft.
Yeah, I would
Look
have tried
up
to
your
hotwire
your buddy Dr. McCoy. He might still be alive at this point.
Aw.
Yeah, we would have probably tried to hotwire the Dyson sphere.
Yeah, right. you would have.
Yeah.
There would have been shenanigans.
Yep.
For sure. I would say Dr. Teal is clearly Ravenclaw, but I will say
Mhm.
that that Eo is a Hufflepuff because
The food.
the
Eo likes
food,
to
right?
huffle
He
and
likes
puff.
to be near the kitchens, and he wants so badly for everyone to like him, and so it's all Hufflepuff. Hufflepuff.
so is Eel like a Longbottom, like a Neville Longbottom situation?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So Eel
Um,
has a horrifyingly sad backstory somewhere. Like
Somewhere,
brutally
yeah.
sad.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's a
Wouldn't that
Bajoran.
make
Or
wouldn't that
no.
make all the sense in the world?
It would make so
Yes.
much sense,
He
right?
was a Bajoran resistance fighter, so
Yeah.
yes,
Yep.
Oh, that's true.
he
Yeah.
absolutely has that back.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's a Bajoran resistance fighter and is an Earth eel. Like how? Like
Yeah.
there's nothing going for that
Yeah,
guy.
it's not a
And-
great day.
He's super cheeky and likes to bake in his spare time. So.
Oh, do you think
Yeah.
he keeps like the Jum sticks, like the sticks from the Jum bars that his parents give him because that's all they can do?
Oh god. Oh god. And as far as characters who
Teal.
yeah, who Teal would like to meet. Jeez. I mean, I would say Beverly Crusher, but
He's like 16 at this
yeah,
point.
she's a kid.
They'd get together and just watch Murder, She Wrote on repeat.
Oh God, that would be so fun. Yes, please. I want that. Let's say that. Okay. we have a Brian question. What program is used to make the mission briefings and maps and stuff?
So my kind of spring of 2020, everybody's at home all the time thing
Yeah.
was basically teaching myself some Adobe stuff. So primarily Illustrator, InDesign, and After Effects for the stuff on YouTube. So I'll write the stuff up in just Notepad or Word or whatever, and then I'll lay it all out. All of the illustrations I do in Illustrator, and I'll usually take, there's already a ton of Star Trek fan and production stuff online, so I'll take something like that and essentially like either draw over it or take pieces of different things and combine them and build something new out of that in Illustrator.
Cool. Will there be any episodes entirely about a character's backstory?
Well, that's not really a question for me now, is it?
I suppose not, right?
So
That leads to another good question we have in here too, which is about how much freedom does the cast have with character development?
Yeah, so I mean, well, this is something that we've actually talked about recently. We're just starting to record season 4, and so the thing that I did for the first time before we started recording season 4 was essentially saying to you guys, okay, what do you guys want to, what kind of stuff do you want to explore? What stuff from your backstories do you have?
Yeah.
Like those kind of episodes where like, where Riker's dad shows up or Kirk has to go rescue his brother dies when they go to the colony, or, or Geordi's mom goes missing. Like those kind of episodes, like let's, because when we started out, like I had never GM before, most of us had never played before, and I knew like if I threw that stuff out at the beginning in like season 1, we would all be like, I don't know. I have any goddamn idea.
Yeah.
So like seasons 1 and 2 are definitely just explicitly like, here's a mission Starfleet gave you, go do the mission for that reason, right?
Yeah.
And now that we have a little bit of mileage under our belts, now I feel like we're just getting to the point where I can say like, what's, let's play with Teal's, dark traumatic whatever thing that happened to her, or this unresolved relationship that Smythe has with a former student or a former teacher or a ex-spouse or what, any of that stuff. Like all of us are just now kind of getting to the point where we feel like we have the chops to start tackling that kind of thing. So yes, I think we definitely will. We still have to kind of figure out some of the actual details.
We did do a bit more of that in season 3, I felt, as well. We explore some stuff. I'll say with Maddox, there's some stuff there that's fun.
True. Yeah.
Holden gets involved because Starfleet Intelligence pops up a few times, so there's a little bit more backstory and back and forth. We've gotten some of that already in the first 2 seasons, just sort of naturally. There's a really great little thing with Eel that I think will be that is pretty poignant, that I think will be fun. So we start laying some of the seeds down for that, particularly because we have some of those character interactions, like the fallout of the Ashloon stuff and some of the continued us working through some of that as a crew. I think that stuff starts to get seeded and starts happening in season 3 as we got a little more comfortable, and we'll just continue adding to that as we go forward.
Yeah, agreed.
Ryan, you had a hand?
Yeah, so my follow-up question to Brian, because I would like to know the answer. You have threads from now to the end of the show in mind, and you have a big picture. How does incorporating these character-driven episodes, how daunting of a task is it to interweave these episodes with the big picture?
So, with the caveat that I haven't really done it yet, not very, I don't think, because the way I sort of I set it up is that there are like some triggers in season 1 that if somebody were to look closely enough, you could probably pick out where exactly they are. But once you guys pulled those triggers, there are now like gears turning in the background, and that's the big what's in D&D slang is called the BBEG, the big bad evil guy. Those gears are turning in the background. It's sort of what I only just kind of realized I was doing, is if you've ever played Mass Effect 3, the way Mass Effect 3 works is essentially you do all of these side quests, you can do as the story, the main story quest, but there's all these little different side quests, and basically how much of all that side stuff you do determines how strong the army is at the end of the game when you fight the big bad evil guy. So it's sort of like that in the sense that like the big bad evil guy gears are turning, but then what army, and loosely, like not literally saying an army, but like how prepared or what kind of shape you guys are in when the big bad evil guy's gears are finished turning and they finally go, ha, my evil plan, like how you guys are standing in front of the gates of Mordor and what armies you have assembled behind you will depend on all of those things, right? Like, so even stuff that's not necessarily connected to the main story, like, oh, we need an ally that can help us in this way, and or provide us this resource or whatever. That's kind of my thinking. Whether or not it will work in the end, we'll find out in another few decades.
All right. Well, we're wrapping up on
3
time
minutes.
here. I have one more question. This is about sort of our origins, which we've talked about at length in different venues, like at Dragon Con and stuff. But Daniel wanted to know where we all met and where the Tempest name came from. And I do think it's a good story, and I don't know if we've done that on a Tempest Talks before. So,
well, I think we've covered the basics, that we all basically went to college together, and we were in the theater club of a college not known for its theatrical or creative art output at all. A university with the word aeronautical in its title is not usually known for its creative output. And then
go ahead.
You go ahead, Brian.
I was just going to say, so we have told that story in the past. Because this is personally interesting to me. I would like to, because I have answers for each of these human beings who are on this Zoom chat. Matt, what is your first recollection of meeting Brian?
Oh,
it's funny because I have a distinct recollection of the actual first moment, and we'll see if they match.
do you really?
I do.
I honestly don't. My memory is horrifyingly bad.
I honestly don't remember meeting Brian.
I thought I met you like 2 years ago.
What's your name again?
Who are you? Where am I? What are you?
Why am I
We're
here?
getting old.
No, I'm assuming it was at a Riddle Players meeting.
It was not. Well, it was Riddle
Was it-
Players. It was.
Okay,
it was
so
at the. It was in fact at the activities fair of my freshman year, in which all of the various school clubs and orgs, you set up their little tents and they go, come join whatever. And which when that happened my freshman year, I made a beeline for the drama club, and
As
you
did I,
and
my freshman
Casey were sitting behind the table, and that was it.
Oh,
That was
cool.
the moment.
So what's your recollection of meeting me, Matthew?
oh, I know.
seared into my memory.
We lived about 28 feet from each other
For a full year and never
for a
met.
full year, we never ever met each other. I believe I directed Midsummer Night's Dream, and I think you had told the story that you walked through one of the shows.
You can't tell my story.
But I didn't see you there. I'm assuming again it was it was probably at the next Real Players meeting after that.
Yeah.
You
So
stopped by, right?
yeah. So the first time that we interacted with each other was we literally bumped into each other. You guys were in your midsummer garb. I was not. I didn't even know who the Riddle Players were. The Riddle Players, by the way, for everybody paying attention at home, is the theater company at Embry Riddle where we all went to school that we all eventually joined. So, correct, not Tara. Tara was the theater company. We'll get there.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you guys were setting up for Midsummer because you guys were doing it in the cafeteria as opposed to in the in the normal auditorium.
Again, not known for its creative facilities.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Like a grade school production, you were setting up in the cafeteria, and I was walking through the cafeteria, and you and I bumped shoulders, and I said, "Oh, sorry," and you said, "Oh, sorry," and
And, oh yeah, that's right. And then I body slammed you.
then you body slammed me.
And then it was love at first sight.
And heart
Yeah.
eyes.
So,
What
do
about
you remember
Ryan
when?
and Travis?
So I don't remember. I know that I met Travis at a Riddle Players meeting many times, many times, but we hadn't interacted for a while because Travis was not an active participant in the plays generally, right? Travis, is that fair to say?
I was
Yeah,
set building and just kind of being a helping hand.
right. And you were dating Betsy at the time, and Betsy was in the productions, and so Travis was somebody who was in all the meetings and came to help build sets and stuff, and we just didn't have a whole lot of interaction until we were filming one of the many short films that we as college students trying to find some creative outlet were doing. We were filming in Corey Betzel's apartment, and we ended up being the boom mic operators together. And it was the first time
that would have
we
also
had-
been my apartment as well at the time, right?
You're right. Yes,
Oh, yeah.
Because it was when Corey and I
I-
were living together.
but
yeah.
I hadn't met you yet, I guess.
And to
No.
be clear,
No.
to be clear, when he says boom mic, he means we took a standard mic and duct taped it to a long PVC pole. and called it a boom mic.
100% correct. And so you and I were holding booms, and we hadn't really interacted. And then I forget who initiated, but basically what ended up happening was for the rest of the shoot, we could not stop giggling while we were trying to like hold ourselves away from the mic so that when we were laughing, it wouldn't get picked up as we're trying to record whatever film Brian or Corey was directing. And that's my first iteration or interaction with Travis that I distinctly remember.
Yeah, I have a fun one because me and Matt met not through Riddle Players.
That's
Uh,
true.
we're-
We're the
Oh.
only ones.
I've known him longer than anybody else here because we
Yeah.
met just through mutual friends.
Yeah.
Like just we're hanging out together just as friends before like I got involved in the Riddle Players at all. Like
Oh, no kidding.
going to sort of support to see
Mhm.
the show was how I got introduced to the Riddle
Yeah.
Players. So
Oh,
Which
just-
show?
Midsummer is the first one
Oh,
I saw.
Midsummer.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
in the
like, we would-
cafeteria.
Yep, in the round.
Yeah. we tried to pretend we were fancy by calling it theater of the round.
round.
Theater of the round in
Yeah,
the
we had-
cafeteria.
In the cafeteria.
Yeah, we had our share of board game nights in the dorms and like going
Yep.
out and playing soccer at like 11 p.m. for no
Yeah,
reason
get
because there's
kicked
nothing
off
else
the
to
soccer field.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Oh,
good.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's a
That's a
good
good
time.
story.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do me.
Do me.
do. I met you.
me.
I met you at the Riddle Players meetings because that's
Yeah.
how I met everybody else here. Was just arriving at the Riddle Players meeting and being like, here are all
So-
these people and everybody doing improv and
Well,
I met you
is-
bowling, I think, Tara, right?
Oh, maybe.
Was that
so the,
Yeah,
the
'cause
original
Matt wasn't
origin
there.
story. So Tara did not go to Embry Riddle. You went to the community college, essentially across the streets, right? And at some point, was it on your side or on our sides, where somebody had the idea of like, we should hang out with the kids
think-
across the street?
I think it
So,
was Mac.
Mac
Our,
was
Mac.
in-
Mac. So
yeah.
go ahead, Tara.
Mac was in the Riddle Players and was dating Janelle, who was in the DBCC theater, drama club.
Drama Club.
And because they were dating, they were like, "Hey, we should bring our clubs together." And so it was like
with our
that-
powers combined.
Yeah, exactly. And so they decided to throw an event called a barbecue. So it was like a ball and also a barbecue, and it was a barbecue. And so they threw this event, and I wasn't even in the drama club. I was in the show Nonsense at the time, and they invited the entire cast of Nonsense to come to this thing via a like Yahoo group email thing.
Vaguely
And-
remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I got it, and I told the whole cast, and everyone said they were gonna go, and I was like, cool, I'm gonna go to that. And then none of them were gonna go at the last minute, and I was like, well, that's sort of a jerk move for none of us in the show that's going on at our school to go.
Especially because
this...
you were already playing nuns.
Right? Yeah.
For none
like,
of you to go.
for none of us to go. So
Go home, Brian.
I was like, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to this thing, and I'm gonna represent the whole cast of this play, and I'll be assertive and make friends. And I walked straight over to Rick.
Well,
Husker.
hold on. Before you do that, tell the story about what you said about the way you looked to your father, because I know the story, and maybe even these guys don't.
I don't think I do.
So my dad's a cosmetologist. He colored my hair black for the first time that day, and it looked really cool, and I was really happy with it. It had been like every other color of the rainbow, but not black. So he colored it black that day, and I had this cute little outfit, and I'd been single for a little while. And on my way out the door, I turned to my folks and I was like, if I don't meet a man tonight, I never will. And I came home with Ryan's phone number. But regardless, I walked up to Rick Usker at that party and I introduced myself, and he introduced me to Brian first. And then
she went, no thanks.
Not this one.
He said, I'm Rick, this is Brian, and that guy over there is Ryan. And Ryan was in his Duke of Buckingham Musketeers costume, dancing with a sword. And I was like, yeah, I want that one. And
the rest they say.
Well,
so from our perspective, go ahead, Brian.
Well, I was going to say, if I remember correctly, I was dressed in my King Louis the 15th costume, right? So
yes.
Tara's decision was absolutely the correct one based on what Ryan and I were wearing.
Yeah,
so you're saying it's Pam Arban's fault, the costume designer? Because what ended up happening was we as the Riddle players were rehearsing for the Three Musketeers, and we had just, for perspective, we have a massive plywood and wooden set that we have to build. But we are not a drama department. We are a drama club. So every single rehearsal and every single show, we have to build the set, and then we have to take the set down and put it away.
Crazy.
It was ridiculous. And so
Why
we
did
were
do that.
No, I have no idea. So we're at the end of one of our rehearsals, and the play was long to begin with. So we had to set up the play. We had to set up the stage. We had to break it all down after the performance, after the rehearsal. And then at the end, somebody said, well, are we going to go to this barbecue thing at DBCC, Daytona Beach Community College? And we're like, no, nobody wants to. But then, eventually we all begrudgingly say, yeah, we should. Mac, the guy who was in the club and had orchestrated it, we can't let Mac down, so we'll just go. So it was a very begrudging group of Riddle players that went over
It sounds
to
like
that
nobody
particular
wanted
event.
to go to that event.
I know.
Nobody did. Yeah.
Everybody was canceling left and right, and it ended up being a very fun night. But I know Matt and Travis were not there. I remember meeting.
I was above it.
I'm pretty
He stayed true to his laurels.
Yeah, Matt, I'm pretty sure I met you at Friendlies.
Oh, maybe.
And because after
Edgar
Musketeers,
Friendlies?
there was a big Friendlies evening, and I went to that.
Is that the night that they didn't give Mac his ice cream in the
No. Oh no,
I'm
that
not
might
gonna worry
It
about
might have
that.
been, no, I'm not gonna worry about it.
But it was the same night that Tara excuses herself from the table and goes to the restroom, and TJ stands up and goes, I claim her. And I say, no, you don't. No, you can't do that. Great moment.
Yeah. Can't. So yeah, college.
So that's our history.
Our history
Yeah.
is mostly college theater shenanigans and
On repeat for 20 years.
yes.
Yeah,
And
has never
to
stopped.
answer the other part of that question, in college, because of that group or during that group and all of that stuff, Brian directed Shakespeare's The Tempest, and It was a great show. I saw it 3 times.
It was
And-
probably the most legitimate show that the Riddle players ever did.
Yeah, and
Hey,
Ryan
hey,
was
hey, hey,
Prospero, and
Hey,
Matt was
we did the
Caliban.
Princess Bride.
That's true. That was very fun.
And
Yes.
we're men of people. We don't lie to each other.
Yeah, that's an inside joke that none of our listeners will get.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
I will say that-
the Tempest came
Yeah.
from that show, and
Because we were rattling starship names back and forth for a while, trying to decide. My my choice, and thank God it was shut down, was Enceladus, because my favorite space body is the moon Enceladus, and I just think it sounds cool. It
Oh, God,
sounds
no
like
one
the
would
most.
say that correctly.
No, and nobody could spell it correctly.
Really, the
There's no way anybody would
Enchilada?
find us.
The USS Enchilada.
Yeah. So, but we were almost the USS Embry. We were almost the USS Riddle because we went to Embry Riddle Aeronautical University. We were almost we weren't almost the Enceladus, but I put that forward.
The
What
USS
other
Sagan,
name? Sagan. Sagan
Carl
was an
Sagan.
option. Yeah. Do you remember any others, guys? Before we wrap up, real quick.
I think I suggested Paradox, which was quickly shot down, which I still think is a cool sounding name, but yeah.
I don't
mean,
remember.
No, I think once Tempest got floated, we settled pretty quickly on it.
Yeah,
I feel like,
it's a good ship
Yeah.
name.
It is a good ship name.
and it was. I mean, there was definitely an aspect of like I really like this ship name. It just sounds vaguely familiar for some reason that I couldn't quite place my finger on. And it was only afterwards that I realized, oh, that's the name of the ship from Mass Effect Andromeda. It was
Awesome.
Mass Effect spin-off game. So,
Ah,
oops.
Oh,
Whoops.
Yeah.
Um,
But
If
Mass
we-
Effect is a great series, although Andromeda is not its strongest outing. But I love Mass Effect, so it works.
strongest outing. We had several other excellent questions that I felt like would take us all too much thought. So I can pitch those later to everybody, and we can
we'll do another.
answer them
yeah.
in Discord or do another one. But like, who would be our dream guest star on the show and things like that, where I think like I would need to think about it.
Tom Stashwick.
Oh, that's a fair point. Fair point. At any rate, we thank you so much for your questions. We thank you for listening. And we will do more Tempest talks in the interim between seasons before season 3 comes out. So until then, you know what we say. Stay safe, be kind, and we'll see you out there.
Out there. Just the two of us will say.
Out there.
Yeah, that's fine. No one else has to say it. Just us.
In here.